Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulunding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
It's a warm reception to our studio here in Serekunda. This is Star TV News with me, Memina Jufadera. In the headlines tonight, Gambia Armed Forces first batch of new contingent to Darfur, Sudan, set to depart today. Masterson Station homicide, 2 suspects charged in connection with death of Gambian in U.S. Management of Africbank gives staffs 2 weeks to meet demands. Serekunda market authorities to embark on sit-down strike on the international scene. In Lebanon, Macron offers the carrot or stick. China working to double nuclear warheads. Pentagon. Arrest resume in Belarus as students take to streets of Minsk. Well, those were the headlines, and now the news in details. The Gambia Armed Forces said that its current contingent serving on the United Nations mandate as peacekeepers will end their tour of duty and will be replaced by a new Gambian contingent. The first batch of the new contingent will depart Banjul on 2nd September 2020. On the same day, the first batch of the current Gambian contingent will return from Darfur, Sudan. Modu Albaji files in this report. It could be informative for the public to know that the troops forming this deploying contingent underwent a month-long pre-deployment training in battle lessons, battle exercises, rules of engagement, human rights, cultural diversity, convoy operations, anti-ambush drills, searches, and public order operations, amongst other GAF said. Gamkoi 23 consists of 132 personnel of all ranks and will be led by Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Kurubali, who was until of late the commanding officer of 4 infantry battalions in Kanilai. He will be assisted by Major Abdu Jata as his second in command. The contingent consists of 13 officers, 119 other ranks, and 11 female soldiers. They will leave for Darfur in 2 batches on 2nd and 23rd September 2020 respectively. The normal farewell parade and deliberation of statement usually presided over by His Excellency the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces could not hold due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Consequent upon the situation, this year's farewell to our troops has been conducted in a low-key fashion at the Gambia Armed Forces Training School in Bakau on Tuesday, 1st September 2020. This has been done in line with the Gambia Armed Forces High Command's adherence to the international protocols as well as state of public emergency regulations. The event was graced by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Defense, Ndeye Njai, who ably represented the Honorable Minister of Defense, the Chief of Defense Staff, Gambia Armed Forces, Major General Yakuba Drame, the service commanders, men and women of the Gambia Armed Forces. Speaking on behalf of the Minister of Defense, Honorable Sheikh Omar Faye, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Defense, Ndeye Njai, expressed confidence in the preparedness of the troops. She pointed out that the training that the troops receive will no doubt adequately prepare them for the multidimensional challenges in the contemporary peacekeeping environment, which has been very dynamic and complex. She advised them to always remember the confidence reposed on them as ambassadors of the Gambia Armed Forces in particular and the nation in general. In a similar vein, the Chief of Defense Staff, Gambia Armed Forces, highlighted some contributions made by the Gambia to deployment of troops to Darfur. He echoed messages of discipline, respect for diversity, professional behavior, and the exhibit of the highest sense of being an ambassador of the Gambian people. He said that the Gambia has become an epitome of hope for the people of Darfur, despite her size owing to the professionalism of the Gambian contingents. Furthermore, the seasoned general officer went down memory lane recounting his days in the mission area, noting it is a pride and honor to serve humanity. He further stressed that the Gambia Armed Forces will therefore not tolerate any member found wanting of crimes relating to sexual abuse, theft, or harassment of civilian populace. He was quick, however, to note that the Gambia is widely respected in the United Nations missions around the world and that he has high hope on the men and women being deployed. Major General Drame, premising on the enviable track record already established by the Gambian troops sent to Sudan over the years. On behalf of His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Adama Barrow, asked for prayers of the nation as this rotation unfolds. On behalf of Mariama Jabi, Maimuna Juve reporting for Star TV News. Lexington police have charged 2 suspects in connection to the homicide investigation of 56-year-old Gambian woman Sabel Jallow, who was found dead in her Masterson Station home on Monday. Dalton Carpenter and his girlfriend Jessica Nicole Hoskins, who was contracted as Hoskins' guardian, are both been held in the Clay County Detention Center, while Maria Madam tells us more.
According to reports by Lex 18 News, both suspects have been charged with auto theft. Carpenter has active warrants for murder and tampering with physical evidence that will be served Tuesday, Lexington police said. The investigation found that Carpenter and Hoskins, who live in the home with Jallow, were involved in an altercation with the victim. Carpenter is accused of causing traumatic injuries to the victim, killing her. Lexington police discovered Jallow's body at about 9:30 a.m. inside the home on Majestic View Walk. Upon further investigation, officers found that Jallow's SUV was missing from the home. Investigators determined that Jallow lived in a home with Jessica Nicole Hoskins, 18, and was contracted as Hoskins' guardian by an agency. Hoskins was not at home when police responded to the scene, and surveillance video from a neighboring home showed Jallow's vehicle leave the street at about 9:30 p.m. Sunday. Lexington police investigators later discovered that Hoskins has ties to the Manchester area and contacted the Clay County Sheriff's Office at about 10:30 a.m. on Monday. Shortly after, officers found the SUV in the driveway at Hoskins' mother's house on Corey Branch Road. Hoskins and her boyfriend Dalton Carpenter, 19, of Paris KY, were both inside the home. Jallow's husband said that Hoskins did not have permission to drive the SUV. Hoskins and Carpenter were both interviewed about the homicide on Monday afternoon. A warrant was issued for theft of a vehicle and both Hoskins and Carpenter were arrested and taken to Clay County Detention Center. Yamuno Kuka, Star TV News.
On the 31st of September 2020, the staff of AfricMed International Hospital embarked on a sit-down strike to demand the immediate resignation of its finance manager, Sanju Kumar, and hospital administrator, Modu Sise. One of the reasons for the sit-down strike was the 25% deduction from their salaries, despite the fact that most of them objected to it. The staff made several demands for the management to consider and promised to keep the media posted about the outcome of the negotiation. Well, Jacqueline Colley tells us more about the outcome of the closed-door negotiation between the staff and management.
After a closed-door meeting between the staff and management of AfriMed, Momodu Mbalde revealed that after the long negotiation with hospital CEO, they were able to come to terms with some of the demands they made, adding that the most important parts of their demand have been met, and the management gave 2 weeks to deal with the rest of the demands because they cannot be handled immediately. The most important demand, he said, was the deduction of 25% from their monthly salaries, which most of them objected to. And as of now, the management has communicated to the finance manager to refund the 25% cuts from their salaries. With regard to the negligence of the management in providing them with personal protective equipment to help protect them against the COVID-19 pandemic, Balder said they have been assured that they will be provided with PPEs to protect them from being infected by the virus, considering the country's state of the pandemic. On their demands for the immediate resignation of Sanju Kumar and Modu Sise, Balde stressed that things like these sometimes can be difficult to handle, but the CEO asked to be given time to discuss with his team to settle that because they are working on contracts, and it will be unlawful to terminate their contracts just like that. The management's time frame to settle Sanju and Cesa's issue is 2 weeks, and the staff will keep the media informed about the outcome of the time frame given. Jacqueline Coley, reporting for Star TV News.
Members of the Serekunda Market Executive on Tuesday informed Star TV about their plans to unanimously stage a sit-down strike with other markets within Combo if the government does not adhere to their demands, which are to change the time the markets open and close, as well as to consider them when providing relief packages. Modu Albaji reports.
The Secretary General of the Serekunda Market Executive Committee, Sedina Kebe, said that the government is not doing justice to them. He noted that they are not in favor of the COVID-19 regulations.
We intend to make a sit-down strike for the reason that the COVID-19 regulations, it doesn't favor us. The time been given to the vendors, it does not favor, even this one, they are opening at 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Moreover, for those who are opening from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, or 7 o'clock in fact. For us, we are saying we should have opened on the same day. And the government itself, they are not fair with us. They give other people 9 hours and they give other people 4 hours, which is not very fair. I think we are all the same. If they are doing their resistance, they should give us equal hours. Much more than giving these people 9 hours, giving these people 4 hours. And moreover, we don't even want that. What we want is let us open from 6 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening. Then we all close together. They said they used to fumigate, they should fumigate the market on Sundays. But as I know, it's only once. Since the first 21 days elapsed, and now we are entering the second 21 days. It's only once, as I
Mr. Kebe alleged that the big shops that are outside the markets are allowed to open, whilst those in the market are urged to close in respect of the COVID-19 regulations. However, Kebe added that if the government fails to adhere to their demands before Monday, 7th September, they will embark on a sit-down strike. The chairman of the Serekunda Market Committee, Pa Jabi Gassama, said that they are aware of the global pandemic and the market committee is law-abiding. He added that those responsible of the COVID-19 regulations have a different view of the market because they think that the interior of the market is tight just like its exterior, and the COVID-19 officials think that it is tight as well. We have written to the Ministry of Health and the COVID-19 coordinator to indicate to them that we are not in support of the new regulations, and we made follow-ups, but we did not have any response from all these sectors. The Serekunda market consists of youths, and a good number of them are Gambians, Pa Gassama explained. Star TV contacted the government spokesperson, Ibrahima G. Sankare, Prince Abubakar Aminata Sankano, Senior Information Officer, the Gambia government, focal person for strategic communication and external public relations, and the Gambia National COVID-19 Response Coordination Secretariat for clarifications, but they said that they did not receive any letter from the Serekunda Market Committee. For Star TV, I am Modu Elbaji.
Well, those were the local stories. We'll be back with the international news after the short commercial break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gosh, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulunding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gosh, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gosh Group also provides the best security company, Gosh Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gosh Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gosh on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gosh Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.goshglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gosh.
Welcome back after the short commercial break, and we now look at the news beyond our borders. In Lebanon, Macron offers the carrot or the stick. There have been more protests in Lebanon's capital, this time coinciding with a visit by the French President Emmanuel Macron. Police fired tear gas to disperse crowds outside the parliament building in Beirut. There have been widespread calls for political change, and Macron has said sanctions could be applied if the situation does not improve. Well, Al Jazeera's Zaina Kudri reports from Beirut, Lebanon.
Projecting influence and power. It's another landmark visit by the French President Emmanuel Macron, who was here less than a month ago. He has taken the lead in responding to Lebanon's economic and political crisis, made worse by the explosion at Beirut's port. Macron came back with the same message. Officials need to tackle corruption and reform state structures to get international financial assistance. This time, however, he talked about a timetable and consequences. Macron said Lebanon's leaders promised a government of experts in 2 weeks, and that he expected the government to start delivering on a roadmap of reforms within 6 to 8 weeks.
I think sanctions can come at the right moment if it is necessary and in a targeted manner. A sanctions policy done when actions have been proven, but not necessarily just in the political framework. The sanctions mechanisms can also be activated when we see illegal activities, which can be military or terrorism related or financial.
The French president, who has repeatedly denied that he's interfering in the country's internal affairs, chose to return on a symbolic day. 100 years ago, the state of Greater Lebanon was proclaimed by the French Mandate authorities. He also chose when to meet officials after a packed schedule in what was seen a political message.
Actions of President Macron are clearly very neo-colonial in nature. There's a clear power dynamic there, and there's a clear sense of putting pressure on this Lebanese political class.
France's influence in Lebanon, which has long been used as an international playground, waned over the years. There are two main players now, rivals United States and Iran.
Macron, I think, feared a power vacuum. The message was, I can play this role between the US and Iran. I can play this role also in pushing forward the political class toward reform.
People return to the streets. They don't believe the mainly sectarian leaders will agree to change that would weaken their power, and they blame France for backing the new prime minister, who they say is a product of the system.
We've tested this recipe over the past 30 years. We're a bit shocked that President Macron is trying to apply the same recipe now again.
Protesters demanded an end to corruption and a new leadership for months. They had hope when Macron first visited Lebanon soon after the Beirut port explosion on August the 4th, thinking the international community would help them topple a political class in power for decades.
They aren't giving up. As Lebanon marks 100 years since its birth, people here say a nation independent of a corrupt political class and outside intervention has yet to be born. Zaina Kudri, Al Jazeera, Beirut.
China working to double nuclear warheads. Pentagon, a United States Defense Department report says China plans to double its nuclear weaponry in the next decade. It is believed to have 200 warheads, but that is a small fraction of what the U.S. has in its arsenal. Al Jazeera's Patty Golhan reports.
Every year, the Pentagon is required to paint a picture for Congress on the potential threat posed by China. This year's paints a military on the rise and gaining on the United States. Some key statistics. China's Navy is the biggest in the world. Its Army, the largest by far. The report alleges that China is looking to expand by building bases around the world, and it says that it has 200 nuclear warheads and wants to double that number in a decade.
As the report notes, within the next decade, China is on course to expand its ballistic submarine fleet and field more capable and longer-range sea-launched ballistic missiles, complete development of its nuclear-capable air-launched ballistic missiles, and field.
Observers say the U.S. is likely to use this to try and push China to join a trilateral nuclear deal that would also include Russia. Although Beijing has said, given that it has only a fraction of the U.S. arsenal, such a deal would be unnecessary.
They were not just reluctant, but refused to really show any interest in signing on to a follow-on agreement to the treaty between Russia and the United States before tensions deteriorated. But of course, when you're shouting at each other, then that makes agreeing to do anything that much harder.
This is an annual report, but it is being released at a time where the relationship between the U.S. and China is severely strained, but also as the Defense Department is justifying its own budget to Congress. The Pentagon is expected to get more than $740 billion for next year. That is more than 3 times what China is believed to spend on its military. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera.
Well, arrests resume in Belarus as students take to the streets of Minsk. Thousands of students have skipped the first day of the new school term in Belarus. Instead, many of them marched to demand the resignation of President Alexander Lukashenko. Some were arrested at the rally triggered by an election result the opposition says was rigged. Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith reports from neighboring Luciana.
Being barely older than a teenager makes no difference to Belarus's masked security forces. But these students in the capital Minsk stood their ground peacefully, ignoring warnings that their rally was illegal and to go home. So, with no obvious leader, the security forces picked on those at the front and started making arrests. Thousands of students at several colleges in Minsk answered a call by opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya to boycott the start of the school year on Tuesday morning.
We came to support the people, to show our political stance and to demonstrate there is no need to stay at home, to be afraid. We are here, we are all here.
Tikhanovskaya, now exiled in Lithuania, wants a new presidential election. The re-election of President Alexander Lukashenko on August the 9th provoked protests ever since. He says he won 80% of the vote. The opposition says the result was rigged. There's not much sympathy for the opposition from the Kremlin, nor for the Baltic states that have spoken out against Lukashenko.
We see no one is trying to hide it, that our Lithuanian neighbours, in my opinion, have crossed all lines of decency in the demands they're putting forward. We have reason to believe that they, along with Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, are using not completely democratic methods, which don't exactly respect the sovereignty of the Republic of Belarus.
On Wednesday, Lukashenko declared over what he called the eventful summer. But that looks premature, and now Washington says it's considering sanctions on Russia if, as a senior US official put it, Moscow were to intervene more overtly in Belarus. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera, Vilnius.
And before we end the news, a quick recap of our main headlines. Gambia Armed Forces first batch of new contingent to Darfur, Sudan, set to depart today. Masterson Station homicide, 2 suspects charged in connection with death of Gambian in US. Management of Africbank gives staffs 2 weeks to meet demands. Serekunda market authorities to embark on sit-down strike on the international scene. In Lebanon, Macron offers the carrot or stick. China working to double nuclear warheads. Pentagon. Arrests resume in Belarus as students take the streets of Minsk. Well, that's all for this edition of the news. To enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thanks for watching. It's bye for now.